Hi there, I'm Mark Walker from the Fintech Power 50, and we're here today at Sibos 2019 in London. I have with me today Andrew Budd from iProov, who is the founder and CEO. How are you doing today, Andrew?
It's a beautiful day to be here.
It's a wonderful day to be here in London. The sun is shining for a change, and we're going to talk about some fintech and some regtech. So maybe if you could just give us a little overview and a starting sort of understanding of what iProov does and a little bit of its history.
So iProov is the world leader at spoof-proof face verification used for ID checking and access authentication. Our speciality is assuring the genuine presence of the user to make sure that they are real, present, and actually there now. We're present all over the world. Our customers include the US Department of Homeland Security and the British government and major banks like ING.
Wonderful. So with that sort of obviously global spread and that, what do you really see as the sort of the key things that are challenging the industry at the moment from your perspective?
We live in a world with a rising tide of very sophisticated cybersecurity attacks, both on government and on fintech. The challenge we have is how to secure customers, how to secure financial institutions, whilst at the same time maintaining very high levels of usability for the systems.
Okay, and how do you actually go about sort of setting up the sort of system for that sort of level of risk and that sort of level of attack?
iProov has invested years and millions in producing a system that is highly secure against even national security level attack, but also our total focus has been on making the system usable. Usable by people aged 9 to 90. People misuse things that aren't usable. So our focus has been on ensuring that we can create a simple, easy to understand, accessible authentication ceremony, which at the same time is resilient to the very, very smart people driven by very compelling criminal business models who we know will be on us.
So it's a little bit like the sort of swan principle, whereby all of the difficult work is going on underneath the surface, and the UX design is calm and very easy to use for the users.
That's the culture that we've instilled in iProov. We work very, very hard to make it very, very easy for users to have a secure experience.
Okay, and sort of thinking about how you've developed that user experience and sort of the time frame that that's sort of taken. Obviously, you mentioned earlier that iProov has been around for a while now. How do you go about adapting to the sort of the continual changes of the users and their requirements?
The place you have to start is making usability your priority. My background is not cybersecurity. I come from the mobile industry. And we learned in the last decade in the mobile business that every click reduces transaction completion rates by 25%. Simple is king. So we came into iProov. iProov was born with a culture that said this had to be simple and usable. Once you create that priority, that permeates the entire development cycle. Every action we can remove, every instruction that we can remove is a triumph and a victory for us. We're helped, of course, by the progress of technology. Every year, people's devices, especially their mobile devices, get more powerful, the screens get nicer, the cameras get better, and that helps us to create a more usable experience without sacrificing security.
That sounds really interesting. So let's move on to Sibos 2019, which we're at today. What are your key sort of reasons for being here, and what are you actually releasing or talking about today?
The payments industry and the financial services industry is undergoing a transformation. The wholesale digitization of the experience means that that has to start with the user on their mobile phone remotely. In a world of increasing attention on anti-money laundering and know your customer, that creates a huge challenge for the industry. How can we create a usable, rapid, low friction method to onboard people onto new financial instruments without creating an opportunity for criminals and terrorists to engage in mass money laundering? That's a challenge, and to do so quickly and reliably. That's the challenge that the industry has. That's the challenge that we are world leaders in meeting. We also now are seeing a transition from primitive methods of access authentication like passwords to much more powerful methods, and biometrics and face verification is clearly one of them. And we're here to talk to the world's banks about adopting our face verification technology secured by our genuine presence techniques to solve those two problems, digital remote onboarding and simple authentication.
I see. And I guess obviously you mentioned there about obviously looking for the incumbent banks, etc. Presumably there's quite a difference in the requirements from a user point of view to dealing with a modern sort of digital bank that's been built digitally and an incumbent bank that has obviously inherited a lot of legacy systems. Is that something that iProov has a solution for?
We're seeing a tremendous commitment by the traditional banks to move into this new digital space. So two of our biggest customers, ING and Rabobank, are both traditional banks who have decided that they're going to take the fight out into the modern fintech space. It's not really just a matter of legacy, it's a matter of commitment and willpower. Their challenges are great because they're under much greater regulatory scrutiny. So they've got to do an extremely good job. That works for us because we help banks do an extremely good job.
It's fantastic. So effectively you're really answering the demands for the incumbent banks and enabling them to move a bit more agilely into the future of digital.
That's what we're seeing. The incumbent banks have this scrutiny from regulators. They are often the root source of identity for the rest of the fintech market, and therefore they've got to do an exceptionally good job, which is what we help them to do. Over time, I'm sure that those constraints will percolate all the way down to the newer, more agile, more innovative fintechs who will need a similar standard of quality, and we're here to help them too.
Okay. You mentioned previously, obviously, that you have a global remit and a global presence. Given that we're here at Sibos 2019 here in London, some may say that the home of fintech. How are you seeing this playing out in different areas around the world, such as in the US or into Asia?
In very different ways and very rapidly. We're seeing Asia being a hotbed of innovation. Places like Singapore are absolutely at the leading edge. We're seeing tremendous innovations in the way that identity is managed in places like Canada and Australia. We're seeing tremendous commitments to national security innovation in the United States, and obviously we're seeing the transformation in payments that PSD2 is affecting in Europe. So different countries are prioritizing different things and moving forward rapidly in different ways.
Fantastically interesting, and it's a really interesting industry to be involved in at the moment, I think. Do you find that there are other areas within the sort of the fintech realm that are developing at the same rate or at the faster rate as KYC?
So what's fascinating is the coming intersection of financial services and payments with the world of digital identity. More and more we're seeing that these two are intimately tied together. Many organizations that are today involved in banking or finance are starting to see the commercial opportunities arising out of identity. Their obligations to providing clean finance depend upon identity. So we're seeing rapid development which is converging, and I think in future many organizations that are strong in financial services will be strong in identity, and vice versa.
What is it that makes the technology of iProov special?
So face verification is now a very widespread technology. There are many, many companies doing it, and it works brilliantly well. But the real problem is knowing whether the user is actually there or not, whether they're real or whether what you're looking at is a deep fake, false image of the victim. That's what we are uniquely capable of determining. We're the strongest defense against deep fakes, false images and replays that has yet been invented worldwide.
Fantastic, very much interesting. So thank you very much for your time to Andrew and answering our questions. We wish you a very good continued show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.